It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello everyone and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, superheroes, and our mothers.
Yes.
So let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And today is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. We'll get that out of the way, Mike. Good call on that one. So if you're a mother listening to this, happy Mother's Day. I've got a story about my grandmother in one of these topics later. So
I was kind of like hoping that you totally forgot today was Mother's Day, and that was the moment that you found out in the middle of the podcast, and you're just like, we gotta wrap this up, Mike. I got a lot of things to do.
No. Much like you, I don't live within arm's throw of my parents, so we scheduled that out well in advance. So, but to any mothers listening, happy Mother's Day. It's also wedding season. I know a listener of the show, Kristen, she's getting married, got married this weekend, so congratulations to you and your husband. So congratulations. But this week we're also buying our Spider-Man tickets, Mike. That's important. Gotta get those early because I think this movie is gonna have a lot of seats filled that opening weekend. We say farewell to the CW as we knew it, Mike. We hardly knew her. I think we said farewell a long time ago, but everyone else who's still there, we'll talk about that. Superman is looking for his Lex Luthor, and whatever that means. I guess that's the villain, right? It's that confirmation that Lex Luthor is going to be the villain of this movie, and more. Yeah,
it's talking about the CW. I feel like I've used this Grant Gustin giving the peace sign in front of the gravestone meme on multiple other Superhero Slate images for episodes. So I'm like, well, maybe this will be the last time I actually use it until it ends and resurrects again. Who knows? Yeah.
The CW, formerly known as WB, formerly known as whatever it was. Was it UPN as well before that? So
yeah, and I swear I feel like it was something else, but maybe I'm just imagining things.
Yeah, I will give them credit that the CW is the first station I knew that really put themselves into a streaming app. And I guess we can talk about that later when we get to that point. But do you remember the CW Seed, where they had the animated Arrow spinoff shows and stuff like that? They were we're gonna really just put our content in there. So
I mean, I know
I was thinking about them like that.
I know the streaming wars may or may not be coming to an end, to a lull, to a rest, right? And it may or may not be messy for consumers out there in the world. But I am glad that we're moving past the weird one-off random apps that the networks tried to stand up. The CWC is a cool idea, but I'm glad I don't have to think about it really ever anymore. There was just a couple years ago, if you wanted to watch the Super Bowl or something, you would need the NBC app. What's the NBC app? What is that? Right? That doesn't make any sense. Well, I know what Peacock is. That's their official streaming service. Yeah. So all of these kind of weird standalone apps that were half-hearted attempts from their marketing departments or whatever are finally they're unnecessary. So we just need to concentrate on one singular app. I'm still waiting for this Max app to come out. I don't know if I'm going to have to download it or if it'll automatically take over what I got on my Rokus on my phones.
Well, I guess the thing would be if Max is a combination of Discovery and HBO Max, one of those has to go. So hopefully it would just be that they update the HBO Max app, right? I feel like that's where maybe more of their constituents live because the name carried over.
Yeah, you would think.
But the people running that, they're idiots. So we'll see how this plays out in the long run.
This is not the only time on today's episode we're going to be talking about streaming services merging into one.
And idiots, a lot of idiots in this show too. But I was segueing into a streaming app I was watching this week, Mike. A streaming show on Disney Plus called The Muppets: The Electric Mayhem. The series, an entire series, 10 episodes, dropped completely on Wednesday of this week on Disney Plus. It's very rare for Disney to actually do a full drop on a show. But watching the first, I didn't know how long these were going to be, right? I knew about the show. I know the premise, the Electric Mayhem. They've been making music for years. They're popular. They're a cultural phenomenon, but they've never recorded a full album, right? They're always doing covers, stuff like that. So I think got some originals, but like they never did an album. And I was like, I don't know, are these like 10-minute episodes, right? They could be like 12-minute kind of things. They're actually full 30-minute episodes on the streaming app. So I was like, oh, this is not gonna sit down and watch them all in one go here. We're gonna space these out, but. In true Muppet fashion, Mike, they have cameos like it's nobody's business in this. Like the opening episode alone has Chris Stapleton, Lil Nas X, Ryan Seacrest, Steve Aoki, Danny Trejo, and more. There's several more in this, so it's really really fun to see that and get into it. And the Electric Mayhem, they're not really the main cast of Muppets, right? They're just like an ancillary kind of musical number that tags along with them. So it was very interesting to watch this and not have any other main Muppets kind of appear, at least in the first episode. So
yeah, I wonder if it'll be like all of those other kind of like spin-off type of franchises where like, oh my God, are we gonna see? And then like the season finale, oh my God, Kermit, he's making a cameo.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do. For that, but I am excited to kind of watch it and go along with it. It's been fun. First episode was entertaining.
Any new Muppet stuff out of Disney is always nice.
Yeah.
It sometimes feels like they're a forgotten IP.
And the best thing about them, right, the Muppets, they are known for literally their movies and shows which parody everything else, right? It's easy to just replace anything in a storyline with the Muppets, and you're like, oh, this is great. And this is a behind the music, right, kind of parody, if you will, of the band and everything getting together, and just how kind of cool the Electric Mayhem are. It's great. Well, I didn't really care for the last show was called just The Muppets, right? It wasn't like the Office parody kind of thing. I'm like, that really doesn't do the sketch comedy, the zaniness of the Muppets well. So this kind of brings it back. I'm excited to kind of dive through this show and just letting people know it's on Disney Plus if you want to watch something Muppet related. The other thing I was able to finally watch this week, I had a friend, he had some periodontist work done this week. So he was under under anesthesia. So he came over and I was like, you're not going to drive for a while, buddy. So after he slept off most of it, we ended up sitting down and I let him have access to my entire library of stuff we could stream, right? And
I was never expecting your basement media room to double as a recovery center for post-surgical procedures.
Absolutely. It's the best place to be, Mike. You can have anything you want down here. And after, kind of going through the most recent things, we finally got to the unbearable weight of massive talent, continuing unintentionally my Nicolas Cage streak for 2 weeks in a row here after watching Renfield last week. I know the memes from this movie way more than I knew the movie kind of going into this. And it is actually I think this is better than Renfield by a long shot, and a very charming film along the way. Starring Nicolas Cage and opposite him Pedro Pascal, and it is absolutely a fun journey through Nicolas Cage, being a self-centered, thinks he's the best actor, playing that character, right? Not necessarily him in real life. It could be him in real life, I don't know. And then also dealing with like a arms dealer who is obsessed with him, if you will. Not in a bad way, but like you've seen the trailers, right? There's a statue of him made with the guns from the movie. So absolutely, I don't want to give anything away. But it is a really fun journey watching again Pedro Pascal, who's come from Mandalorian and what was the other show he just did? Last of Us. This, and then seeing Nicolas Cage, where they literally reference every movie I think he's ever done in this. At some point, absolutely good time, Mike. So I can't recommend this one enough. There's a fun little watch at the end of the day for those who want to revisit Nicolas Cage's history of films, and also get more of your Pedro Pascal. And everybody wants him right now. So you can go sit back for a couple hours and watch that. So I recommend it. Absolutely. So tell me what you got a thing here. The first one I don't know. The second one I do. So tell me about the first one here.
I can always tell when you have no idea what I've been doing when you struggle to try to throw away.
I can't transition. Yeah, I can't transition to this first one. So I'm like, lay it on me here.
Yeah, there's this new animated series on HBO Max, or I guess just Max, whatever you're supposed to be calling it now, called Fired on Mars. It stars Luke Wilson voicing the main character. And I didn't know anything about it going into, but I was like pleasantly surprised. It's a story about kind of, imagine like a SpaceX style of company finally adapts a colony on Mars, and it's a fully functioning colony with like offices and buildings and structures and everything, right? And you're kind of there with kind of the first wave of people that are inhabiting Mars, and our main character, voiced by Luke Wilson, is the only graphic designer on Mars, which I could relate with by career choice. But it's hilarious because he's the first person in the space colony to get fired because they realize very quickly a graphic designer is extremely unnecessary on Mars. So he's like struggling to find like, well, what is he going to do next? And he's just surrounded by a bunch of idiots, and he's kind of like a pushover. So like they're like, they can't like straight up kick him out of the colony, but they got nothing for him to do. So he's just like aimlessly like floating around through this company, like trying like not to get ejected out onto the Mars surface. It's a very, it feels very like King of the Hill in like humor and also like animation and style, but it kind of has like this subversive quality to it. So like if you're just kind of looking just for something kind of like just like weird and like goofy and very like very script driven, go check out Fired on Mars. It's very fun. They made this like fun creative choice to like all of the technology in this show is like kind of feels like you're on like an old Apple like Macintosh. So like occasionally they'll show like the UI on a screen and you're like looking at like the old like, you know, Apple menu and toolbars. So it's just like, it's fun. There's a lot of really fun stuff going on. So
awesome.
If you're intrigued by all these things that I'm saying, go check out Fired on Mars. I don't really hear anybody talking about it, and the way in which things are going over at Max with Zaslav, I really doesn't feel like this is probably going to get a second season. So just enjoy it while it lasts, is what I'll say. But I have no other way to transition to this because
I was going to transition to this
open.
because I was a Nicolas Cage one. I was like, maybe if we flip these, because Nicolas Cage will lead into this, because you have watched what I'm going to affectionately call a geezer teaser this week.
A geezer teaser. Okay,
yes,
yeah.
Because old white men love to watch these types of movies.
Yes, the ultimate dad fanfic, if you will. So I mentioned a few weeks ago on the podcast how I not really tricked my wife into watching John Wick, but I got her sucked in, right? I got her sucked into the universe. We ended up watching all of them, and we actually loved it when we actually got to go to the theater, and we got to watch together our first John Wick movie as a unit, as a couple in a movie theater. So I was like, I've effectively sucked her into this movie. And then there's another franchise that I don't really want to get her sucked into. I just want her to watch the first film because it's the only good one out of everything that
Thank God there's only 3, so...
But there's also a network TV show, too. Yeah, they made like 20-plus episodes of it, too.
We're not going to go down that road, but yeah, there's at least 3 movies, so yes, go on.
Yes, but the aforementioned movie I'm talking about is Taken from 2008, the Liam Neeson reinvention vehicle. And I don't even remember how it came up in conversation in our home, but I was like, wait, have you seen Taken? And she's just like, no, I've never seen it. And I was like, oh my God, we're going to watch Taken. And then she's like, I'm not watching that movie. So a day went by, and I decided the best thing to do is we were I don't know, we were either waiting on something cooking in the other room, but we had like 30 minutes to kill. So I was like, okay, we have 30 minutes to kill. We're going to watch the first 30 minutes of Taken. And if you don't like it, we do not have to watch the last hour of the movie, because luckily the movie's only 90 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I hit play, and we start watching it, and I'm just thinking in my head, please, please, please let the speech that he gives on the phone to the kidnappers as they take his wife from under the bed, please let that come in under 30 minutes, because that's the whole thing. Right. That's what sells
that's the
movie.
Hook. That is the inciting incident right there.
Yeah, I think shot for shot, the entire sequence is in the trailer. That's how you got people to the theater to watch this, right? So I'm like, come on. So I keep like glancing over at my phone. Luckily, she's watching it in earnest, not like, randomly scrolling on her phone that like everyone out there in the world is guilty of when they're forced to watch something, right? So she's in it, and it's funny watching her interact with something that came out so long ago. And, she spotted very quickly, because what these teens are doing over in Europe is they want to follow U2 on tour. Mm-hmm. And like even back in 2008, teenagers didn't like U2, and my wife was just like, wait, why is this teenager trying to follow U2? And I was like, I'm glad you caught that. Everybody
they probably wrote the movie in the 90s, and it took them that long to get it picked up.
Exactly. So I'm like nervously looking down at my phone. I'm just like, oh, come on. I didn't realize there was all this like pop star bodyguard stuff at the beginning of the movie. Come on, let's get through it. And then like clockwork, we get to like the 6-minute mark, and the girls finally start to get kidnapped. I'm like, oh man, are we going to get it?
There's an opportunity for you to say the girls were taken, but go on.
Oh, yeah. Well, and then like the second he finishes his speech, like he delivers like the last line, and there's like a dramatic kind of pause after the kidnapper says like, good luck. Like they scene transition to like Liam Neeson like rushing around in his car making phone calls. So I paused it. I looked down at my phone, and we were at like 29 minutes and change. Yeah. And I was like, all right, babe. I looked over at her. I was like, are we going to finish the movie? And she was like, son of a bitch, yeah, we're going to finish it. I was like, yes, because that's the moment. You can't deny it. I've seen this movie a few times over the years. I actually saw it in theaters back in the day because it was an action movie, and I was a teenage boy, so I was going to go watch this film.
Oh, yeah.
And it still gets me, that moment. Like, the beginning of the movie is a little cheesier than I remember it being, and a little corny at times. But, yeah, once the movie gets into it, like, I was going to look this up, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot of stunt coordinator crossover between the first Taken, and maybe some of the John Wick movies, because I know the John Wick movies are just like littered with probably like every professional stunt person in the industry has probably run through that franchise by now, because they need a lot of them, I think, just to make the movies. But like, I was actually surprised how much of the actual action in the movie Taken holds up, right? You remember the infamous scene that everyone has shared to death in like Taken 3, where it's like 40 cuts of the camera to get Liam Neeson over a single fence. And I was like, oh no, does that actually happen in like the first Taken movie? Is there a lot of that like jump cut and like nonsense in the first film? I was like, no, the first film still holds up as a pretty good action flick. So if anyone out there is trying to convince a loved one to watch it, just have them commit just to the first 30 minutes. I think it's really easy to sell somebody on 30 minutes. Let's just watch this while the roast is cooking in the oven or something like that. And then they'll be taken by it.
Oh my
so
God.
That's but I promised, I was like, we're not going to watch the other ones. I know they're bad. I haven't seen them. So first one holds up. Go give it a watch.
The other thing about this movie, and I didn't know if you were going to bring it up or not, this was written by Luc Besson, right? Who did Leon the Professional and The Fifth Element from like the 90s. So like, I feel like he knows what he's doing a little bit. Again, he didn't direct it, but I feel like he knew the story and how to like get people in, right? Like, all right, the first third of it is the setting this world. The second, the next 2/3 are literally just the action, scene by scene by scene, all the way through. So I think Taken's good, but I still classify that in that the Expendables, right? Movies like anything Clint Eastwood. Those are what we call geezer teasers over here, because old guys just love to watch these movies to see another old guy get the drop on somebody. So Taken definitely fits that bill. So glad you guys got through the first one, and I'm even more happy you're not watching the second two, Mike. So congratulations. Are you watching the TV show instead?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I don't even know where that is. I'm not looking it up. Yep. But I was curious. I did read kind of like the log line of it, and it is starring Brian Mills, who is the main character in the movie. But obviously, the character on the TV poster is much younger. So I was like, is this like a prequel for Taken? Like, or is like every episode he's just rescuing somebody that's been taken? That's a lot of It's a lot of work.
Yeah, that could be. Well, I'll go ahead and just download it for you and put it on Chris Flicks because I know you're going to want to watch it later.
Of course.
When you're busy. No, I'm kidding. All right, well, let's jump into some news, Mike. Let's start with Star Wars. This was one of the weirdest news articles this week, so I thought I'd jump in right away. Star Wars Skeleton Crew, right? The movie or the show with Jude Law as a Jedi and the young kids who are different species are it's coming up. But actor Jaleel White, who you may know as Urkel from the 90s, he doesn't like to play that role anymore, by the way, or be acknowledged for it. He apparently is involved with the show somewhere as a cast member. But the other thing was he's not very good with the Disney snipers because he's like, yeah, I'm in it, and it's coming out in November or December. And everyone's like, ooh, probably shouldn't be telling people that. But
yeah, it sounds like he's been out of the mainstream machine for a little too long. I guess he never had to really worry about spoiling Family Matters. Back in the day. yeah. But is this kind of the Tarantino approach, right, where you just kind of pluck an obscure, iconic actor from back in the day that nobody cares about anymore, and you throw him in your vehicle. You put him famous again.
Put him in an opposite role, like he's the villain instead of the weird, the Urkel.
Quirky.
I don't know how to describe Urkel. Like you have an Urkel character. Everyone knows who this is. So maybe he's the villain. I don't know. He didn't say who he was, but he's like, oh yeah, November, December. So looks like we're gonna be getting Ahsoka in August, and then a couple months later, getting right into Skeleton Crew, Mike. So I believe that show is also done filming. They're in editing, so this is not affected by the writer's strike. So. Because we have to put that asterisk on a lot of these shows right now because some are still work, some are in post-production. Post-production usually is not affected as much by those things. So we'll hopefully be able to maintain that schedule, and then the writer's strike will get wrapped up sooner than later. We won't have to cover that anymore, and it'll be good for everybody. Switching to Transformers: Rise of the Beast, the tickets for this are on sale. Mike, if you wanted to go ahead and buy more tickets, I don't need a Thursday night screening for this movie, right? I think that's interesting, for me because Transformers I don't care, but I do want something maybe, we've always talked about an early morning on a weekend, or an afternoon something. I can go get one of the beers from the bar at the theater and sit back and just enjoy myself for 2 hours. So
yeah, I'm not too sure how I'm going to be approaching this one personally, right? If the bottom of the barrel for me going to the theater is Fast X, which is I'm not going to the movie theaters to watch that one, and Spider-Verse is a 10, right? Yeah. For me to definitely, I have to see that in theaters. This is maybe coming in at a 2, not very strong. So I don't know how this is going to be going.
Yeah. Well, I would like to cover this one, Mike, even in a 30-minute review, simply because I love Beast Wars, right? Beast Wars is a big part of me growing up. I can't speak the same for you, but probably, right? Beast Wars. And I want to see I want to sit here and just shit on this movie for about half hour with you because I know it's going to be bad. I know it's going to be bad. I've seen the trailers. I'm not excited. I would love to be surprised, absolutely. But I feel like we need to do that. But in a good note, the runtime of this is 4 minutes off from Bumblebee, so it's right at a little under 2 hours. So it's not like one of Michael Bay's later films where he just kept getting longer and longer, and you're like, get over with it. But yeah, I think this is gonna be a mid-afternoon and some beer, kind of movie going experience for me. So we'll let you guys know. But tickets are on sale if you want to get them. On the flip side, on Monday, literally Monday morning, I think first thing, right? Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse tickets went on sale. So if you are interested in seeing this movie, as we are, go buy your tickets. You gotta get it there. You gotta get them early. They're starting to book up. Mike, tell us about what you did. You went a little different for your theater going approach on this one.
I'm hyper paranoid after seeing Mario in a theater full of just immature children, and I'm like, okay, this isn't the exact same audience, but the movie has picked up a lot more steam compared to the first time the first movie came around. Now everybody's eyes are on this franchise, so I'm like, I'm a little worried. So for a limited time, Spider-Verse is going to be in IMAX probably for the first week or two. So I was like, okay, step one, get my IMAX tickets because those tickets will be more expensive. Yep. Maybe these teens don't have as much money. And then I'll go opening night for sure. And then luckily I have a theater very close to me in Burbank, California, which is centrally located physically and holistically in the animation industry. So when I went to go buy my tickets, I saw a lot of blocks of seats sold, right? You know, rows of like 13 or like just little areas quarantined off with tickets sold. So I was like, oh, I think there's a good chance that I might be seeing this movie with a lot of like industry professionals at like an 8:30 on a Thursday at this theater. So I'm looking forward to this one a little bit more. Awesome, because it's going to be in IMAX. I don't believe I saw the first one in IMAX, if I remember correctly. So I think this is going to be an awesome screening, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that's great. Like, so our IMAX theater is pretty awful, right? We always joke that we went and saw Logan when it came out, and one of the seats broke when we sat in it, and they've not repaired that seat since Logan.
Oh my God!
So we don't go back over there anymore. But for this one, we decided to go into the local, I guess the theater we've gone to, the Cinemark across the street, right? The one that we see all our movies at. So I'm hoping that it's a good experience overall for that. But, you know, I was the first person to buy seats in there. I don't know how... Was yours kind of full when you were buying seats on Monday morning?
Not exactly full, but like there were tickets going. Like probably if you were an idealist and liked, you know, that perfect seat in the middle, like those were taken, but still acceptable things in there.
Yeah. Taken with Liam Neeson.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. But for this, they also released a new trailer to announce this. We did watch it. My wife and I showed her this trailer earlier. There's really nothing new in this, right? There is, you know, Spider-Man and Gwen, and it looks like, you know, the Spot, and then every other Spider person is chasing Miles Morales Spider-Man around, right? The only thing I would say at this point, there is a little scene where a cat in a Spider-Man outfit, the Spider Cat, I believe from the Miles Morales game, is swiped at Miles' face for a little bit. So I think that's very entertaining. So I'm glad the trailers aren't over detailing story points, right? Like, I'm really, really happy for that. So I'm going to be avoiding TV spots, anything else kind of going forward. But I'm very, very excited to kick June off on a good note, right, with Across the Spider-Verse along the way.
You gotta be worried with Sony. If they start to get a whiff that this movie might underperform their expectations, they'll straight up put like the final spoiler scene in a TV spot to get you into those seats.
yeah, and they're not really good with their trailers anyway. We've notoriously said that, right? And this one, I'm glad they're maybe learning, or at least being cautious on this one. So everyone, it might be time to start maybe blocking those keywords going forward. I don't know, but you know, keep your hats on and buy your tickets so you can get in there opening weekend and prove to them that these movies are worth going to see in theaters, because a lot of people don't have faith in animation theaters, but I think we do. I was going to say Venom 3 had some news this week, Mike. The working title for the film is Orwell. And most people would know this word or associate 1984's George Orwell, the writer, right, for this. So you might think, oh, they're going to 1984 route. Possibly. However, to bring in some side knowledge, there is a character called Orwell Taylor who is actually a villain or an antagonist against Venom in the Lethal Protector comic book, which they've always tried to pull into the movies, right, that they're doing over Tom Hardy.
Now, I feel like it's been a while since we've actually like talked about Venom in earnest, like the actual next movie coming out, not just the franchise. Have they said that this is going to be wrapping up like Tom Hardy's role as Venom? This is kind of like the end of it.
Yeah, this is like the last hurrah, if you will, currently for Venom. Yeah.
Oh man. I feel like now it's almost like that sunk cost fallacy where I feel like I've put too much time into this silly villain verse to where it ends with like a whimper. Like now, like give me the dumb crossover movie, right? Yeah. Throw Morbius, Kraven, and Venom in a movie, and Vulture and whoever else you can randomly prop up, and just make a dumb villain movie that I can just drink a slushie while I watch.
So this one's going to be interesting. The character Orwell Taylor has ties to the Life Foundation, which they've done in the movies, right? Like that's like the organization from the first one. But they get a lot of armored suits, like Iron Man looking suits, if you will, in the comic books to take on Venom. Like to like, I guess, bring him in, if you will. So I'm excited to see if they, actually ramp up. Like the villain isn't just another Venom, right? Like don't make it another Venom. Make it like an Iron Man-esque character or something different that we can actually fight, rather than just two goo monsters going at each other the whole movie.
Yeah,
for a
that
third
would
time.
Be cool. I mean, I don't know if the MCU has a plan to bring back Justin Hammer, but it'd be kind of cool to have an alternate MCU version of Justin Hammer, and maybe he's making the suits or something like that.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, they could also just create this Taylor. They could maybe put what was his name, like Hammer Industries on like the suit a little bit if they wanted to. Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity to drop that in there. Absolutely. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But I'm excited to see. Maybe like you mentioned, it's Venom 3. Like diminishing returns are like, okay, this is the third one. Let's just do whatever the hell we want, rather than just like you said, making two goo monsters fight each other for 2 movies. So. I'm hoping they're going a little wild on the third one because it's the last one for them. So maybe we'll get that crossover too. I don't know. I want to see Kraven. I want to see this footage from Kraven we talked about last, like 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We bit the nose off some dude's face. Now you got to be thinking about that. Speaking of Venom, I'm going to go ahead and drop this first. Disney Plus, Venom and Spider-Man Homecoming officially came to Disney Plus this week. There was the Spider-Man movies are doing a rollout of all of them added in there. So we had the Tobey Maguire and the Andrew Garfield ones, and now we have one Tom Holland and one Venom movie in here. And if you're a stickler for it, I guess Venom is watchable for the MCU because of his little cameo at the end of No Way Home, if you will. So,
I wouldn't be surprised too if you see like a Tom Hardy-esque Venom maybe pop up in a big like Secret Wars Battle Planet scene.
The goo did come over, so I wonder who it finds in the MCU, right, to be the hosts for that. But they're on Disney Plus, and with that comes the updated timeline. So if you go to the Disney Plus, click Marvel timeline, it'll show you where Spider-Man Homecoming falls into play in here. Pretty cool. But the other part of this is, and I sent this to you. Was it like a Disney? Like a earnings call or something this week? I forget.
Yeah, I think it was a quarterly earnings.
Yeah, so Bob Iger confirmed that later this year there will be a combined Disney Plus and a Hulu app available for people to download. Currently, and I think he said they're going to maintain the individual ones as well, which makes no sense, but whatever.
Yeah, it feels like something that would probably be sunset after a while, right?
Yeah.
So I'm guessing you keep the Disney Plus app that you have in a way, like the software tile that you have downloaded on your phone, and then just Hulu library gets added into Disney Plus would be my guess.
Well, and I think from what I've heard is you go in and you open the app and then you choose which one you want to go into at the start, which is... I don't know why they don't just do it like how Disney Plus you choose whether you want like Disney, Marvel, Star Wars, Discovery, or not Discovery, National Geographic, and then in other countries the fifth tile is literally Hulu. I'm like, well, do that. Like just make you open the Disney Plus app and here are all 5 of your categories you want, right? Or all, but it doesn't matter. But this is kind of fueling a little theory that Disney may be looking at a full Hulu buyout by the end of the year, Mike, or next year.
It's one of those situations where I believe NBC Universal almost has the power over the situation. I feel like they can either force an entire sale of it and Disney would have to buy it, or I guess they could put up a flag and say like, hey, we would like to purchase it. But we've had this conversation before of like what actually is Hulu at the end of the day when you purchase it. So I don't know. It sounds like it's just it's just like it's a messy streaming world out there right now where things are going away, being combined together. I think also on the earnings call there was like a tidbit where they might pull a little bit of a David Zaslav and remove some things from their streaming services so they don't have to pay the licensing fee for it. So I mean,
right, yeah.
Chris, I feel like you feel more vindicated every day with your own separate offline library of all the things that you like.
Well, yeah, exactly. And again, we chastise HBO for moving things. I would say Disney Plus the same way. Like don't build an app saying it's the home for everything and then start removing stuff. Like you're going against the whole idea of it. So I like the idea of consolidation between Hulu and Disney. Like I like how other countries do that, yes, but I don't like the idea of content being removed from it. So I guess maybe it depends on what it is. again, they have algorithms, numbers, data that show, hey, we're paying more to host this and keep it up, and people rather than than people are actually watching it. So you need to be fiscally responsible. Everybody in every industry is cutting costs this year, right? I would say the other thing that we never really talked about for Disney is that there's always, like every month, one little news break. Is Apple buying Disney, Mike? Is Apple buying? Like, do you hear this as well? Like as much as I do. Like once a month.
It's funny that you bring that up because I heard it for the very first time, like maybe within the last week, and to me, it just sounds so absolutely ludicrous that acquisition would ever get approved through like the FTC or FCC. I don't remember which governing body controls that, but like that would be like, talk about like a monopoly situation. I know Apple is technically a technology company, but we don't need companies of this magnitude combining together. And also usually when you try to pitch an acquisition, right, you kind of have to like put the word out there like, oh, this acquisition needs to happen because we need to be able to compete. Like, what competitor out there is so dangerous that Apple and Disney would have to merge? Like, that's insane.
The only, maybe aliens, Mike, at this point.
We're starting to get those radio waves that come in from an alien planet. Like, that's free content. All people need is an alien antenna, and they'll get free brand new stuff.
That's right. The only reason I think it comes up is because the only company with enough money to possibly buy Disney would be Apple, right? Like, I think that's the only reason it ever comes, because what other company would have the funding to buy Disney offhand? Like maybe Microsoft occasionally, these computer companies, but like, I don't think it would ever happen or get that far to get approval. But I'm like, this is just wild, that we're in a, I guess, economy world where like Disney needs to be bought out because they're not making enough money, kind of thing. I'm like, I don't think that's true at all. Disney is bringing back the dining plan, though, Mike. I'm very excited about that. The Disney dining plan at the parks. I know. Things like you always tell me, Mike. The world is healing. Things are coming back to normal. That was one of the things that what's his name, Bad Bob Chapek took away from the parks. I think they also did it for COVID, right? No eating in the parks, no food in the parks, but they are bringing back the dining plan, which is my favorite part of going to Disney, is the dining plan. Because then you don't have to carry cash. You just buy your lightsabers with your little wristband. Everything else is taken care of. But anyway, but yeah, I think, Mike, for me, I don't want an app where I open it up and have to choose Disney Plus or Hulu. That's just an extra step than keeping the two apps side by side on my screen. Do you see, I would like it to be natively built in, but like, do you see yourself using a combined app or sticking to the individuals?
Well, I mean, you would think if you're bringing these two apps together, do you raise the price? Because I feel like Disney Plus is still kind of artificially low in cost compared to the competition out there. I mean, the Max streaming service is supposed to remain the same price, which is great.
But that went up recently. Apple TV went up $1 a month, I think, recently. So the Disney Plus with ads just went up $1 as well.
Yeah, and then on top of that, there's the Disney Hulu bundles. So like, if you have that, like, does that price go down because now Hulu is part of Disney Plus? It really, to me, just comes down to price. It doesn't really matter to me exactly how I get to the content. There's stuff that I would prefer for sure, but it's more of like the cost of like, well, I pay for Disney Plus and I also pay for Hulu. So does that mean I get to cancel my Hulu subscription now? Or I don't.
They're not going to do that at all.
Like, I don't care so much about keeping track of what I'm watching. Like, we're doing a rewatch of Modern Family right now. If they're just like, oh, well, you're going to lose all your watch history if you end your Hulu subscription and you start watching it on Disney Plus. Like, I don't care. I'll just remember where I left off. So I guess it's really just going to come down to the dollars.
Well, and I think dollars will be one for one. For me, I want a good experience. I hate when people make apps just make apps, right? At the end of the day, that like really, I wouldn't say gets my goat, but it's just like, really, like, your app needs to be intuitive if I'm going to be using it frequently, to kind of do that kind of stuff. But oh well, if you guys listeners have any preferences or inclinations, write in, let us know, because I would like to know what everybody else thinks about this. We're obviously, again, I think we're in the same boat, just thinking about different things at the end of the day. Wonder Man, the show at Disney Plus that is now not in production due to the WGA strike, which is fine. The synopsis has been released by The Hollywood Reporter, and I think a lot of this stuff is information coming out because of the productions, right, happening. And Wonder Man, the synopsis is now, gives a superhero's perspective on the entertainment industry, centering on a Hollywood stuntman and actor trying to make it big in the movies. So, the idea is the actor is Trevor Slattery, right? Ben Kingsley is returning to play his actor role, Trevor, and then that Wonder Man himself will be the stuntman, but he has to get powers somehow, Mike, right? So how does he get powers, and does that offer more opportunity because he's a stuntman with abilities? I don't know.
That is kind of interesting, right? Because you would be the ultimate stuntman in a way, where you could do any stunt. They could put you through anything. But then, I would say a waste of your skills overall, right? Because if you are like ultimately powerful, like maybe there's a little bit more that you could do with your life. But at the same time, what I would imagine, if you're a superpowered superhero, or a superpowered stuntman, you're going to go from stuntman to celebrity very quickly when people find out, just like how like She-Hulk became like famous and an icon and was on, TV and news as we saw through her season. So it could be kind of like a fun trajectory to see him like work his way through the industry with his powers.
Yeah, because you become the person who does their own stunts at the end of the day. So, I'm interested in this. I know very little. Showrunner, I believe, or maybe the writer, one of the two, is Destin Daniel Cretton, who did Shang-Chi, right, and is working on the first, I believe, the King. It's not King War. Secret Wars is the other one. King Dynasty, the director of the King Dynasty movie. So, very excited to kind of see what comes out of this. Very little is known, but excited to kind of see it at the end of the day. Also in Marvel World, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. For fun fact, again, if nobody knows this, there is the F word in this movie. For anyone who I wanted to...
Where was it? Because I remember people saying, they were like, oh, that was such a great place to use it. And I was like, I just didn't catch it when I was watching the movie.
Yeah, so spoilers if anyone doesn't want to know this, move ahead. But it's whenever they're getting in the old car and Nebula cannot find the button to get in the car. She's like, okay, I've pushed the button. Now what do I do? And he's like, open the fucking door.
I did not catch that. Maybe I was just so engrossed in the moment that I was like, no, it feels very natural. This is where it'd be.
So Disney, James Gunn, he was like, Disney, Marvel never asked me to do anything, remove anything at all. And he was worried that they were gonna do that, but he didn't. The Disney and Kevin Feige didn't. But Kevin was like, do you want to be known to be the first person to put an F word in the Marvel movies? And he's like, if you're trying to convince me not to do it, you're not helping, because that's what I want to be known for.
Yeah.
So that does keep it PG-13. You're allowed one in the use. So, very, very, very funny moment. So that's funny. And the other thing is, he also unveiled, like, there was one song that they did not get to put in the movie because of legal issues, I think, with the song itself, not necessarily Disney's legal trying to acquire the song. So that's like the first time he said that's happened as well. So just a little inside baseball there, Mike. I thought that was kind of fun to kind of hear that as James Gunn's out doing his press tours and stuff like that. Yeah,
there's been lots of cool things like behind the scenes. Like it's like a new era of behind the scenes when it comes to directors being on social media. I think the last time we talked about this was the director from Shazam. He was very much an online type of guy, and I saw him posting a lot of behind the scenes stuff of Fury of the Gods when that movie came out. And James Gunn's been doing the same thing as well, which is great. Like, if you just follow him on social media, you're seeing like behind the scenes, like rehearsals of the fight scene with Peter and Groot in that in the High Evolutionaries office, if you will. There's a lot of hilarious behind the scenes content of the Peter Quill body double. So just go give James Gunn a follow if you want some cool behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, and he, I know, Mike, you've chastised him before for being too social on social media, right?
Well, when it comes to the order of the DC universe, if he's posting behind the scenes stuff, that's fine.
He's not afraid to go out and call people out, like reporters, they're like, hey, Superman's down to one person, they've already hired him, and he's like, that's not true at all. Like, like he's calling out like quote unquote scoopers and like leakers, like actively. He's like, no, that's not true at all. Why would you make this up, kind of thing. So I do appreciate that about him as well. in those moments. I will. I also put on. I actually ordered the soundtrack for Guardians 3 on vinyl this week, Mike. So if anyone is a collector of the soundtracks, because everyone loves the soundtracks, you can go ahead and pick those. The vinyls are for order, and then you get different colors based on where you order them. All that fun collectible stuff. So pick those up. I also saw this morning, and I forgot to add it in here, Mike. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 now holds a world record for most on-set prosthetics in a film.
That's what happens when you are an established director in a third version of your film, right? Like, they trust you enough and you have a big enough budget where you can do that, because most of the time they're just throwing, those tracking dots on the extra's face.
and you have in this movie, again, from the trailers, the animal people, right? The animal, I guess, anthropomorphized animals on this planet. You have a lot of aliens, because it is an alien, it's in space and they're aliens. It has 22,500 pieces. The previous record holder for this was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So no one's even come close in the past 23 years.
Yeah. The number to me is funny because it's absolutely meaningless to me. I just don't like how does that fill a dump truck? Does that fill a Honda Fit? I don't know what that is. So I do find the number humorous.
Yeah. 22,500 prosthetics, 500 wigs, and 130 facial hair pieces.
To me, this also feels like too when you buy Tupperware off of Amazon, where it says it's a 16-piece set, but they're counting the lids, as the pieces, and it's actually only 8 containers. So yeah, I don't. The number is meaningless, but it is fun to me that they use so many prosthetics. One of those behind the scenes videos that I was talking about was Gunn just interviewing a couple kids that were in these ant prosthetic masks. And he was just like, what's the worst prosthetic that you've had to wear so far during my movie? And they're like, oh, this one for sure, because it's hot.
Man, yeah, and it's funny because also 2 of the main characters are literally CGI-only characters of this whole movie. So you're like, a lot of these aren't even the main characters. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that's fun, and glad they gave him the ability to do so and didn't say, hey, you have to CGI all this stuff. So, absolutely fantastic. If you've not watched it, go check it out. It's still raking in money at the box office, so we'll cover that more maybe next week when we get a good 3 weeks under the belt. Speaking of James Gunn, though, Superman Legacy, rumor is that they're casting, and I quote, an apex Lex Luthor for this movie. And reading that out loud, it sounds like a weird flex for Lex Luthor, right? You're like, what's he doing? But apparently it's a version of Lex Luthor from the comic books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, just in general, I am so sick and tired of Superman Legacy rumors, especially when it comes to all the casting stuff. So if you are somebody that has abandoned the Twitter app, which you can rightfully do, and no one's going to judge you. The Twitter app now has 2 different tabs on it. They have a For You tab, and then also your followers tab. And sometimes I forget which one I'm on. And if I go for the For You tab, the algorithm has deemed that I want to see all of the DC drama out there in the world, and it's infuriating. I'm trying to figure out a way to de-incentivize the algorithm from showing me all of this nonsense. It's just a bunch of annoying fanboys just arguing back and forth about Superman casting, the fitness of James Gunn as a filmmaker, and going on both sides of the argument. Yeah. It's so dumb. And I just don't care. I've never not cared about something so much. And also it's so superfluous in a way too, because I feel like if casting, especially for superhero movies, has proved over and over and over and over again, it's they can turn any actor out there into a hero when you don't suspect it, right? Cue the Hugh Jackman articles or the Heath Ledger articles or all of these other articles, right? And at the same time, these superhero movies all the time will cast amazing actors, right, in iconic roles, and they don't do anything with them. Like, think of just like Christian Bale as like Gore the God Butcher. Like, what a wasted casting out there, right? So it's like, to me, like, casting is just one of those things where you just gotta wait and see, right? If the actor is not historically tied to it in any way, kind of like, we're waiting for like the Fantastic Four casting to see if they actually go with like the John Krasinski and Emily Blunt method or not. So yeah, we're kind of waiting to hear back on that. But like, when it comes to like Superman, like, I don't care who it is. Like, just pick somebody and get it over with already. It's just so annoying to me.
Well, I'll tell you who it's not. Henry Cavill. That's all we need to know. Like, it's somebody new. They will pick someone again. Whether the thing about Guardians is, right, every character in all those movies, even though Ronan didn't get a chance to shine too much in the first one, everything he's casted in his movies has been great, right? Like, he pulled Chris Pratt out of Parks and Rec, right? Like a I wouldn't say overweight, but like just an average weight man into like a very muscular leading actor, right, out of a TV show. Like, he can pull, he knows what he's doing, and I trust him to do whoever it is. Whether we know that actor or not doesn't really matter, right? At the end of the day, like, they're gonna find someone who does a good job. And the funny thing is, it's just as you said online, the fucking soapboxes people get on, like, they will die on hills that nobody else even knows exist, except them.
Yeah, it's been really funny to see the kind of the Snyder fandom do their best to try to take James Gunn like down a peg or two. Like, they just do not like that he's in charge, and like this vocal minority is just like grasping at straws, because I feel like we've levied fair criticism against James Gunn, especially when we talked about season 1 of Peacemaker, and we did ultimately like Peacemaker, right? But you're starting to kind of see some things as you get more example of James Gunn's work that maybe we don't vibe with the most. But at the same time, you cannot argue with his box office success, his critical success, his audience fan reaction, right? If you're going to go the dual side of Rotten Tomatoes. So it's been really funny. I'm hoping once we get a couple movies into this new Peter Safran, James Gunn universe, like the Snyder voices will just get buried and like die out.
My favorite thing is that they're like, the Snyder fans are picking these days they're going to announce WB has reinstated Zack Snyder and his universe are like coming back. I'm like, I think the people running these don't believe it, but they know they can get like followers and ad clicks by convincing all these idiots to follow them. So
give the mouse a cookie. They gave them the biggest cookie of all time, which was Zack Snyder's cut.
Yeah, they gave
of Justice League. So now they think they can get whatever they want.
They threw him a bone, and they really shouldn't have. But either way, what this casting sounds like is, back to the James Gunn movie, is they're going to use Lex Luthor. This would be the third Superman movie in a row that has Lex Luthor as the villain. I mean, I know he is a villain for Superman, but Superman has a lot of villains, right?
I mean, honestly, Lex Luthor is an awesome character if you can just execute him appropriately. Because the coolest part about him is, kind of in a sense of like Batman, is you have an unpowered person that will just go to great lengths to like compete out there in the world with these like super powered people, right? Batman's on the side of good, Lex Luthor is on the side of himself. So that's what I've always liked about the character, is like he's always like 10 steps ahead. And
it's not necessarily himself, he's on the side of like humanity, right? He's like the normal people, the unpowered people are who he stands for, and that's what he believes in, right? He's like, we don't need an alien to save us. We can do it ourselves.
We just need capitalism.
Yeah. Real estate. He needs lots and lots of real estate, according to the older Superman movies. But, so they're casting an apex Lex Luthor. Now, this version of Lex Luthor came around in the 2019, 2000s. And he is essentially a powered-up version where he is a half-human, half-Martian hybrid, if you will. Like, he is resurrected as like half Martian Manhunter, their species half human, and it literally gives them the abilities to kill the Justice League. And it's wild to imagine in your first movie a Lex Luthor that's not just a regular human, right? He's like half alien.
Yeah, I mean, like, historically, there's always, like, stories where he, like, finds power in a way, right? Either it's, like, I don't know, like a suit or, like, maybe, like, a random, like, serum or something like that, right? So, I mean, I could see maybe that's a route that they go. So instead of doing, like, a mechanical suit, maybe he's, like, experimenting in a lab.
James Gunn loves aliens in his movies, though, right? Like, Guardians of the Galaxy, Slither, his Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are both alien film movies and shows. So I wouldn't be surprised. Again, Superman is an alien. I wouldn't be surprised, though, if he does like some sort of like Lex Luthor discovers, the Martian breed or creatures race, and he's like, I need to infuse their DNA with mine, like, and pull that kind of card in the third act. But I really was hoping they'd pull somebody else out, like not Doomsday, right? Not Lex Luthor, but like, who else could be a Superman villain that that we've seen over the years? Like, pull something else out.
Yeah. Well, also too, a lot of the casting rumors that are getting floated around out there, and I think they've even confirmed it on kind of Gunn's side, is they're kind of looking for a younger actor, right? I think that's one thing that we do know. So if we're kind of looking at like a year 1, year 2 Superman type of situation, like Superman's got to make big noises out there in the world to kind of get on Lex's radar. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And with it called Superman Legacy, I'm interested to see what that pulls into play, right? Like, what does it mean, and how is this character used? Because there's tons of ways to use him, tons of stories. One of the oldest, most known superheroes with all the stories, and they always do the same story, the same one every time.
Well, now one thing that's interesting, like thinking about the title and everything, so we're still trying to like nail down what exactly this universe looks like, right? And Gunn is trying to create like a mainline universe that we can follow. So like Superman's got to be older, I would assume, in Peacemaker, right?
Well, he wouldn't necessarily. I mean, Peacemaker, there's no guarantee that Suicide Squad and Peacemaker are technically in this universe, right? They could retcon it a little bit, if you will, right? Because those were made pre his hire and directive to make these things. So I don't think he's going to try to backfill, because the Suicide Squad is a sequel to Suicide Squad, and those are like those aren't related anymore, right? So I feel there's going to be some retconning along the way, if you will. Like, even the Flash and Aquaman are in there. So do you think Flashpoint will just wipe all this clean? We don't have to worry about it?
Oh, yeah. I do keep forgetting about Flashpoint. Yeah, that could fix a lot of this.
It's the Flash, but we all know it's Flashpoint, people. Like, it's what it's going to be. So I think Flash will rewrite a lot of this for us, and we won't have to worry about it going forward. So, knock on wood. But yeah, Superman Legacy, Lex Luthor, yet again, the main villain of a Superman movie. But speaking of Superman, the only other place we currently get to see Superman is on the CW, and the CW is sadly transitioning away from scripted television, Mike.
Yeah, dying yet again.
Yes, the investor, was it Nexstar Group or something like that a couple years ago we talked about. They are a company that believes in unscripted television, so a la reality shows, right? Cooking shows, DIY shows, stuff like that. And they're looking to reduce their scripted shows to, again, save costs and do whatever it is. They need to get more ad sponsors, get more viewership. We're not watching the CW, so I can't really say we're helping the situation here. Currently, The Flash is airing its last season. I think there's only like a handful of episodes left, right? Maybe.
Yeah, I think it ends this month. Like, maybe at the end of the month, I think it's the last episode.
May or June, one of the two, right? So like it's in its final weeks here. So we'll probably be talking about that at the end. When it wraps up, if you're a Supernatural fan, the first season of The Winchesters has been canceled there, but it's been shot elsewhere, Mike. And one of the homes it's looking for is the Max service as well. Produced by actually Jensen Ackles, one of the actors of Supernatural and in The Boys, as was Soldier Boy. And then currently the other note is that there are 2 DC shows after The Flash is done that are currently up in the air about what's going to go on. Now, there are theories that only one of these shows will live on past this current season, right? One, Superman and Lois, is currently in its 3rd season and going strong. It actually gets like over 1 million views an episode, but it is the highest cost of these 2 shows. The other one is Gotham Knights, the newer show. with that I have not heard anything about this show at all. But it is a much lower cost show to maintain, but it has about half the viewership of Superman and Lois. So they're up in the air on which one of these is going to continue on for at least one more season, Mike, at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it is kind of sad in a way almost that all of this kind of like I guess Berlanti CW superhero stuff is kind of ending on not necessarily like a whimper, but you do kind of wish that maybe they could have coalesced something at the very end, right? You know, maybe one final crossover event to close out all of the shows would have been really cool, but it seems like that only would have been possible if they decided to go out on top, right, when they still had the ability to do all that.
Yeah, I think The Flash, they brought back what's his name from Arrow, and they're trying to do that in their final season, but not the final episode. But like, honestly, most of them are already done, right? Like we've been trickling these shows down, like slowly turning the faucet off over the past several years.
And that's why it feels like we've done this news segment at least 4 or 5 times already. The transition of the CW to me almost feels like when a radio station in your area gets bought out, right? You turn to that dial one day and all of a sudden it's a totally different branded radio station. They're doing something totally different because like somebody came in, like an investor bought it out, and they're just trying to re-strategize, and that seems like that's probably what's happening here, of just like, hey, we have a TV channel here that's broadcast over the airwaves and also on a lot of cable packages. You got viewers here, but we're just gonna bring in like new content. I mean, I did see a headline that they're hiring one of the somebody connected to the show Kim's Convenience, which I love, is going to be working on a comedy for the CW. So it seems like at least there's going to be an attempt to make some scripted content over there. But
not everything.
Reality
but
shows are usually cheaper and faster.
And they can make scripted shows without effects, right? Like comedies are very, very basic, right? Like there are things you build a couple sets, reuse the sets all season. You don't need a special effects for Superman or like other things like that. So I totally see other scripted content for going there, but like the days of the Berlanti, the superheroes, the CW, the Arrowverse, we are witnessing the end here. And I don't think Gotham Knights is even a part of this, right? I think nobody's.
Yeah, I think it's probably more associated, if anything, with like maybe like the Titans kind of style of universe.
Well, yeah, but like it's got the characters from Titans and Gotham Knights, like I guess like his sons and whatever. I'm like, it's a weird thing to live in. They just made it because of the game was coming out, I think, and the game didn't really do very well either. So I'm not going to count Gotham Knights, but if Superman and Lois go out the same time the Flash does, this is what I would say the nail in the coffin for all that stuff.
Yeah,
and we can bury it and be thankful we had it for a while.
Maybe the way to look at it is the ending of The Flash will kind of be the send-off, and then whenever the last like Superman and Lois ends, that'll be kind of like the epilogue. But I think I might go back when the Flash wraps up and watch some of the final episodes, because the fan base has really not liked the last couple of seasons for sure, especially if you go on IMDb and look at the ratings. But the last couple episodes, there's been some uptick, right? We're talking about consistent like 5s and 4s out of 10 across the board for most of these episodes. And then just the other week, 8.6, 8.9, 7.0. Well, so people are starting to kind of tune back into these final episodes.
You know what I say, Mike? It's the last Flash episodes of the year. We can't hold anything back. So they are going all out here. I believe, I'd like to watch the end of it. It was a great show to start, but you can only have so many people running faster than Barry Allen for it to work.
There's 2 episodes left. The last one airs on May 24th.
Okay, so it is this month. Great. So so CW will be talking. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Flash when that comes up, but we'll see. It's very funny. It's wrapping up right before the movie, Mike. Maybe we'll see Grant Gustin appear in there, since Ezra appeared in a Flash episode once. So we'll come back whenever the Flash movie comes out and talk about that. But yeah. Last bit of news here. I'm gonna say this is already spoilery territory for Fast 10. So if you don't want to know anything about Fast 10, get out. You can jump forward. And,
Chris,
hear the
I beg you, spoil whatever you can for me. This is going to be the unique opportunity.
You sent
where
this
I don't
to me,
care what
so
you say.
you sent this to me. So this is actually your bit
okay.
of news. But everyone else, if you don't care, get out of here. So Fast 10 is releasing. Is that next month or later this month?
I think it's.
I'm gonna type it
I
in
don't
here.
know. Why would I know?
Yeah, May 19th. So it actually is next week. Holy hell! So that's why this is out. So you have the end credit scene. The end credit scene features a return of a character and an actor who said they would never come back to this fucking franchise, Mike. And this is great because I have a meme to go along with this. I'll send over to you in our messages here. But The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, is the post-credit scene of Fast 10 as they kick off getting ready to start filming Fast 11, the last Fast movie, they say, in the franchise, if you will. But this all boils down to a couple of things, and I believe it all starts with the failure of Black Adam last year, Mike. Is this picture I sent you shows it bombed critically and financially. The Rock supposedly committed financial fraud. I've not heard this yet. This is interesting.
Yeah, it's the first I've heard of that.
It killed the DCEU, correct? It killed Henry Cavill's career as Superman. The last time we'll see him. And now he's going back on his word that he would never, ever work with Vin Diesel again.
Also, I think it's safe to say it also killed the Shazam universe as well.
Oh, yeah. It didn't do any favors to any I think if you would have taken Black Adam out of that, Shazam might have been maybe just a hair better. I don't know. But I don't know how that movie affects that. But it's funny that he is now going back on all of his words and threats about never returning to this franchise.
I'll put it this way. As much as I like the dog on The Rock, he is a businessman at the end of the day, and this is a good business decision, right?
Absolutely.
When everything is falling out around you, you hold on to the most expensive golden star-studded ship that you could find.
You find that paycheck and you chase it. It's what you do. And the Fast movies are always a paycheck. What I love about the Fast movies are, to me, they are essentially every Fast movie without any movie in between is a next Avengers movie, right? Like, hey, we've now upped the ante yet again for the next movie. The villain in the last one is now a hero in this one. And we keep growing our cast of characters as we kind of go along with it, right? And this is everything.
I do have to say, even though I have no allegiance to these Fast movies at all, and I don't care, and eventually I get around to watching them, I was excited to see that he's coming back because I'm still curious who the hell the mysterious voice was in Hobbs and Shaw, right?
Yeah.
Does this mean we're gonna get a sequel and we finally get to find out what the detached technological screen voice was that was pulling the boys around during that movie? I didn't particularly love the movie, but I would like the mystery solved.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is an opportunity to come back to this universe full-heartedly for The Rock, right? Like, while again Fast 11 may be the final Fast movie, there are opportunities for these spin-offs to do this, like Hobbs and Shaw, or like you pick another. John Cena is like another big name actor, right? He could have a spinoff if he wanted to. So I think it's great to have all of your characters finally back for your final movie, Mike. Like,
maybe final movie, because on the red carpet they were teasing that this could be a 3-part finale. Even though they've said that it was going to be 2 parts. So I don't know if this was like just some PR fishing of just like, hey, go out there on the red carpet and float the idea of a 3rd movie and see what people think.
Yeah, well, even if it's 3 movies, like have them all together in the final outing. If you split the last one into 2, I guess, to make it. But I've not seen Fast 9 yet myself. I don't even know if I've seen all of Hobbs and Shaw in one sitting. So I need to revisit those before Fast 10 comes out next week. I will not be going to theater to see this, I feel. But again, like you said, I got to see the craziness they're doing. They've got Brie Larson back, right? She's not back for the first, and Jason Momoa is the villain. So I'm interested to see these at the end of the day, just to see what they do with them. Not because I care about anything. I agreed with you. Not precious on it at all. So. That's a fun way to wrap up the show, Mike. But let's go ahead and get out of here. We'll be back next week with more. But if people know what you're up to, what you're doing, what can they find you at, man?
Oh, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And you can read my webcomic at Life Rewards Risk and liferewardsrisk.com. Chris, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or anything with video games, Valdan, Valdan. If people know about the show, we're doing our next review is Spider-Man, I think, if nothing else pops up in the meantime. So we're going to get all these good episodes out every week. Until then.
Yes, if you want to get all of our goodies, it's at superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want to see everything that we've talked about this week and the weeks in the past, superheroslate.com. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you love to listen to find podcasts. We're also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can get merch, superheroslate.com/store. We're out there, people. We got digital homes, and we want you to digitally visit them. We love you, and we want to know what you're watching and what you're thinking of. Are you tired of Superman casting rumors, or are you a normal person that's not terminally on the internet like we are all the time that gets just bombarded with all this stuff? Let us know how your life is going. And if you want to be a super fan of the show, all you got to do is share the show with a friend and share the show with a buddy. And we'll be here every week, folks.
That's right, and we will see you guys next week.
Bye.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.